Hello everyone, this is Mridul Pahawa from EN190 News. Today I'll be talking with Jaden Rui and Michelle Chow, students at Wilfred Laurier, to discuss about disease outbreaks fuel disparities between geographically, economically, and ethnic different groups, as well as providing some of our own personal experiences with disparities during COVID-19. So let's begin. Michelle, our class would love to know what has changed in your life since mid-March 2020 when in-person classes ended and social distancing measures were adopted in Ontario.
In March, I moved back to my home in Markham from Waterloo, and my life changed drastically. Prior to the pandemic, I left my dorm room every day and walked outside amongst others to my large classes. Now in quarantine, I rarely go outdoors, and I have limited exposure to those outside my family. I don't participate in extracurricular activities like intramurals or meet up with my friends anymore. Instead of playing sports, I currently follow online workouts to maintain my physical health. This change has also given me the opportunity to spend more time with my family, which is very valuable to me.
Very interesting. Jijan, can you tell us how your life has changed since social distancing laws were put into effect?
Similar to Michelle, I also returned home to quarantine with my family and experienced social isolation and a reduction in physical activity. Along with the disadvantages, there were also some benefits. I was able to work on improving my bad eating and sleeping habits and could spend more time on hobbies that I love. My outlook on life has certainly changed as I've developed a greater appreciation for my friends, family, and the outdoors.
It seems like you both had similar experiences after moving back home from the university. Speaking of which, Jaden, I know that you live in Toronto. Why don't you tell us how the city has changed since the spread of COVID 19?
Toronto, what was once a vibrant, busy city, has become a cold, vacant place. The streets are empty except for the odd person walking in a hurry to make it to the grocery store without crossing paths with another. The dark, rainy weather also seems to be congruent with the mood of the city as the feeling of despair grows and people have given up their hopes of a fun, happy summer.
Wow, crazy how much an overall feel of the city can be changed in a short amount of time. Michelle, can you tell us a bit how your city has changed?
For Medjool, in the summer, Markham is a beautiful place with many parks for people to enjoy nature. Typically, the parks would be filled with families, friends, and pets. However, since the COVID-19 restrictions were placed, the parks have been blocked off from public and warning signs with the threat of fines have been placed to ward off citizens and promote social distancing.
Thanks, Michelle. So unfortunate that such a beautiful place cannot be enjoyed by the citizens. It is truly evident that pandemic has created a major change in our lives. Can you both tell us something about that you have experienced that is new or unfamiliar during the pandemic?
Yeah. During the year, I always felt overwhelmed by my amount of commitments. Not only was I adjusting to the new university workload, but I also had to create a balance between my social and family life, extracurriculars, and personal to dos. Once quarantine started, my busy daily life quickly changed into days filled with nothing to do. Feelings of boredom and purposelessness were new to me, but I was surprisingly able to learn a lot from them. I finally had the time to work on myself and do some self care. I realized how refreshed I felt after taking time to sit and read a book, or finally clean up my room. I'm excited to implement this new lifestyle when quarantine is over. Actions like taking breaks in between studying, eating healthy snacks during long days, and allocating days in my calendar for me time will help me to feel energized, happier, and more productive.
Like Jaden, I also experience boredom and isolation. Although I'm a very social person, I am also independent and have never felt restricted or incapable without social support. For the first time, I have questioned this part about myself, as quarantine has changed my social life drastically and made me feel both mentally and physically isolated. Quarantine has given me a chance to introspect and dissect why I feel this way without my friends. In addition, as a member of the Chinese community, I have felt culturally isolated. Seeing my community targeted on social media and in public for ethnicity has affected me personally. Hearing the stories of Chinese Americans being spat on and attacked makes me fearful of the public opinion. I'm hesitant to go outside and witness these harsh realities for myself, and therefore, for the first time, I felt that my community was disconnected from the public. These combined feelings of isolation were surprising to me, as I've always felt like an independent person with a strong community.
Thank you both for sharing your moments of personal growth and displaying how geographical changes has played a big role in your experiences during the pandemic. Some of your experiences remind me of what Daniel Defoe discusses in a Journal of the Plague Year. In Defoe's text, London is hit by a bubonic plague which brings horror and sorrow into the city. HF, the narrator, illustrates the disparities between economic classes, comparing the pain and hardships endured by the lower class people left in the city to the wealthy who were able to flee. Not only does the wealthy's money provide them with the opportunity to escape the infected city, but they are also easily able to access the resources that are unavailable to the poor. The segregation between classes can be seen in today's society, as those without savings are unable to find work and are struggling to afford basic necessities. This disparity is magnified in media as celebrities such as Cristiano Ronaldo are photographed quarantining in their mansions and living lavishly on private islands.
I definitely agree. Many fellow students are sadly struggling in society's lower economic group. Many people have been laid off and find it hard to become employed at the limited workplaces still open. Ultimately, those who are poor cannot afford to stay home and do nothing, like the celebrities pictured in the media. Like in Defoe's text, the lower class is forced to work outside their homes or leave their homes frequently, which increases their risk of infection. Today, lines for food banks are longer than ever before, creating an even bigger risk for the poor to catch the virus.
Another resource that segregates society's economic classes is the ability to access COVID 19 testing. Many people in the lower class struggle with accessing medical attention and protective equipment like gloves and masks. At the peak of the virus, hospitals and testing centers were overwhelmed with patients, and priority was given to the wealthy. This can be seen in the news as celebrities speak about testing positive for the virus and how they were helped by medical staff.
Although there are many similarities between the economic class in the Defoe's text and today, but there are also some differences. Today's Canada is giving monthly checks to citizens to help with paying for necessities while opportunities are scarce. During the 16th century, the time period in Defoe's journal, the poor were left to fend for themselves. The city's money, which was later spent on rebuilding London after fires, was withheld, and people in power made no effort to assist the poor. Our government has grown since this time, and although the aid is not enough, it is a step in the right direction, proving that the lower class is being acknowledged and people are trying to help. Now let's move on to talk about disparities in ethnic groups, specifically relating to a more modern text. Racism and discrimination in COVID-19 responses is a peer-reviewed article written by Dylan Devakumar, which explores the racism and discrimination magnified by COVID-19. Michelle and Jaden, what are your opinions on this article?
I never witnessed anti Chinese racism in Canada prior to the pandemic. I didn't expect to be directly discriminated against. However, with the pandemic coming from China, I noticed active discrimination. On an online gaming platform, I was made fun of due to my Chinese ethnicity and was told to shut up bat eater in a game. That was extremely disheartening, and to observe that many social media posts have racist comments about Chinese people as well makes me feel like we have moved backwards in time. As stated in Deva Kumar's article, Donald Trump's statement about COVID 19 being the Chinese virus brought a lot of hate and backlash. Chinese people are being spat on, denied entry to different establishments, and constantly sworn at. As stated in the article, outbreaks create fear, and fear is a key ingredient for racism and xenophobia to thrive. I have personally been affected by the anti Chinese sentiment. At Laurier, people would avoid sitting near me in class, and my family and I would receive demeaning looks from non Chinese people in the public.
Wow, Michelle, I'm so sorry. That must be very hard to endure. Racism around COVID 19 is not something that I've been directly affected by, luckily. However, I have seen the discrimination promoted by political leaders on the news. This association between the Chinese community and COVID 19 is real and very dangerous, especially when promoted by leaders. Authority figures have an alarmingly strong impact on people, as seen when Donald Trump commented about injecting oneself with disinfectant, putting Americans that followed his advice at risk. After listening to these racist political leaders, many young adults and teenagers have felt that it is okay to upload discriminatory and harmful posts pertaining to COVID 19. Although this racism has been promoted through many different social media platforms, the hate spread on TikTok is especially dangerous due to its primarily younger audience. Exposure to this content instills a belief in children that targeting others and being targeted is allowed in today's society.
Like Donald Trump, Matteo Salvini also gave racist remarks while speaking to the public. According to the article, former Deputy Prime Minister of Italy wrongly linked COVID 19 to African asylum seekers, calling for border closures. This demonstrates that racism pertaining to COVID 19 reaches farther than Chinese community. As stated in the article, rather than being an equalizer, given its ability to affect anyone, COVID 19 policy responses have disproportionately affected people of color.
In a time where support and togetherness are so needed, we should not be isolating people and acting negatively towards them.
It is our job as community members to stand up for people being discriminated against in public or online, and to make sure that everyone feels supported in this time of need.
As seen in our personal lives, Defoe's journal and Devakumar's article, division between groups does not help us. Quoting the article, division and the fear of others will lead to worse outcomes for all. Thank you so much, Jaden and Michelle, for joining us today. We'll see you next time on EN190 News.